Nice to meet you all. I hear you are interested in Korea. To understand Korean society, I believe it is essential to understand the division of the Korean Peninsula. Furthermore, it's important to recognize the diverse, multi-layered, and sometimes conflicting views that South Koreans hold about North Korea and inter-Korean relations. Today, here in Berlin, the capital of reunified Germany, I'm here to share stories and insights on the division, separation, and occasional exchanges between North and South Korea. I first visited Berlin in 1997 as one of the many South Koreans who came here hoping to learn from Germany's unification experience. However, my first encounter with Berlin was actually back in 1975 when I was 11 years old through a comic magazine. In the story, two Korean boys who won a world travel lottery visited Berlin. The episode set in divided Germany, especially Berlin, left a deep impression on me. Why was it so impressive? First, the two boys in the story crossed the border by car. What? How could people cross borders by land? The idea of crossing into another country so easily felt impossible for me. Second, the idea that the city Berlin existed in the middle of East German territory with West Berlin surrounded by a single wall seemed strange and amazing, rather than understanding that the wall was built to prevent East Germans from escaping. I somehow thought the wall was there to protect West Berliners from the scary communists. Looking back, even thought that the wall looked so weak, too weak for protecting anyone. Doesn't my childhood perspective seem a bit naive? But now, take a look at this famous satellite photo of Korean Peninsula at night. South Korea appears brightly lit, while North Korea is so dark. So South Korea almost looks like an isolated island in the middle of the sea. South Korea is surrounded on three sides by water, and on the northern side lies a boundary that is a normal national border, but a military line. We are part of the Asian continent, but there's no land route to neighboring countries. Planes and ships felt like the only way to reach the outside world. As a young girl growing up in South Korea during the Cold War of the 1970s, I received a very strong anti-communist education. The boundary that separated the two Korea is not merely a wall or a line. It is a vast area about 4 kilometers wide. In the center of this area is the military demarcation line, MDL, and extending 2 kilometers north and south of this line is the militarized zone, a DMZ. Have any of you seen the Korean drama Crash Landing on You? 사랑의 불시착? Oh, okay. The tree where Yoon-se-ri, Son Ye-jin's character crash lands due to a sudden gust of wind while paragliding, that's located in the northern part of DMZ, where she first meets North Korea, Lee Jong-hyuk, played by Hyun-bin. The DMZ is where the Korean War was halted after 3 brutal years of fighting from 1950 to 1953. It was originally created as a buffer zone to prevent further military conflict, but it has since become a nearly perfect barrier, blocking almost all movement and contact between the two Koreas. And nearly 80 years later, the Korean War has still not officially ended. It's only been suspended. Since the 1970s, there have been some official meetings and exchanges led by government. However, It was only in the early 1990s, after German reunification, that Koreans officially agreed to pursue exchange and contact. This is me. The first road that actually crossed the DMZ and connected North and South Korea opened in 2003. Later, railways was connected as well, and many South Koreans were able to visit North Korea using this route. But now, there is absolutely nothing. There is a zero exchange between North and South. There are, of course, reasons for this, more than I could explain in one lecture. North Korea's nuclear weapons, missile tests, sanctions against North Korea, anti-North Korean leaflets, and many more complex issues. In 2020, North Korea declared that it would completely shut down all space of contact between North and South. Take note of the phrase space of contact. As a literal demonstration of the decision, North Korea blew up the Inter-Korean Liaison Office building, which has been established in the North Korean border city Kaesong. In October of this year, they even destroyed the 2 remaining roads that connected the North and South. Kim Jong-un and his sister Kim Yo-jong declared, "We will completely shut down all the contacts with South Korea. There will be no reunification. South Korea is neither one people with us nor one nation. We are 2 hostile states." Let's consider why they targeted all the contacts and take note of their mention of contact spaces. What were these spaces? What kinds of interactions took place there? I personally crossed the border many times, and in those spaces, I met both North and South Koreans, observed their interactions, and documented their stories. To help understand the concept of space of contact, I'd like to introduce the idea of contact zone as defined by Mary-Louise Pratt. Pratt's research primarily deals with cultural interactions between colonial empires and their colonized territories in the 17th and 19th centuries. But in our context, we can think of it more simply as a space where people with different histories, languages, cultures, and ideological backgrounds come together and communicate. When groups with such contrasting backgrounds meet, you see a mix of conflict, tension, and cooperation all in one space. And the contact zone can be a place where boundaries are redefined in dynamic and sometimes surprising ways. By the end of the lecture, I hope you will have discovered some of this dynamic for yourself. This is beginning of contact zone in Korean Peninsula. This elderly man is Jong, the founder of the Hyundai Group. Do you know Hyundai Motors? Yes, that Hyundai. In 1998, Kim Dae-jung administration launched the Sunshine Policy, aiming to promote change in North Korea through contact and exchange. The policy was modeled on West Germany's Ostpolitik. Jong Ju-young responded. Jong's hometown was Tongcheon, a county in North Korea's Gangwon province, nearby DMZ, and part of the scenic Mount Kumgang region. He met directly with Kim Jong-il, North Korea's leader, and the father of current leader Kim Jong-un, and agreed economic cooperation project, including a tourism program for Mount Kumgang, Kumgangsan. Before the meeting with Kim Jong-il, Jong loaded 1,001 cattle onto truck and sent them North Korea through Panmunjom, you know Panmunjom, white cows. Before the Korean War, Jong had secretly borrowed some money from his parents and run away to Seoul. That money came from selling the family cow. With that money, he built his business empire. Yet he was never able to return to his hometown after the war. In 1989, he first visited North Korea and began discussions for the Mount Kumgang tourism project, but it wasn't until 1998 that his dream became a reality. His actions symbolized both his longing for his hometown and his hope for peace and prosperity between North and South. Of course, Kim Jong-il was likely moved more by economic benefits than by sentiment. A truck carrying cattle is passing by the building at Panmunjom. However, this wasn't a road. There used to be a boundary marker there, which was removed to let the truck cross. After this event, we started calling this place the cattle path. As you know, Panmunjom was a place where armistice talks and prisoner of war exchanges took place at the end of the Korean War. A few months later, Mount Kumgang was opened to South Korean tourists, creating a contact zone where North and South Koreans could finally meet. To better understand this period contact, let's visually compare the situation in North and South Korea around this time, 1998. These are images from 1998 that I found on Google. We see South Korea's first generation K-pop idol group, H.O.T. and Jack's Kiss. No? Have you heard of them? You could say they are the ancestor of BTS. No? Yes? No? Two photos of right show young people in Seoul with their trendy, expressive fashion styles. There was a popular trend toward free spirit, individualistic fashion. What about North Korea during the same period? Here's a photo from the parade held on September 9, 1988, to celebrate the 5th anniversary of North Korea's founding. Look closely, and you will see the letters Kim Il-sung on the ground, made up of thousands of people holding colored cards. Kim Il-sung was Kim Jong-un's grandfather. Every person had to stay perfectly in line to create image of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. The parade formation was also perfectly organized with everyone in perfect alignment. Just before 50 days before the launch of Mount Kumgang tours, North Korea launched its first ballistic missile test. Economically, North and South Korea were completely different situations. The mid to late 1990s was particularly challenging time for North Korea, as severe food shortage led to widespread starvation, a period North Koreans refer to as arduous march, 고난의 행군. Here is a screenshot from North Korean news in September 1998, featuring a coastal village near Mount Kumgang. Fishing was the main industry in this village, but they were unable to send boats out of sea because lack of fuel. So, nevertheless, the villagers managed to catch fish. How? By using wind-powered sailboats instead of engine-powered ones. But even that wasn't easy. They didn't have enough fabric to make sails. So the villagers pulled scraps of fabric from their homes to make sails. Like this. Like this. This wooden pole is the mast. You can get an idea of how they built these boats, don't you? That's not all. They didn't have fishing nets, so they collected old worn-out nets and mended them like this. North Korean media described their efforts as an heroic struggle driven by revolutionary soldier spirit. It was at this sea village the North and South Koreans met for the first time. This cruise ship was the first means of transportation for the Mount Kumgang tour group. Although the decision was made to start the Mount Kumgang tours, there was no land route available. I was on the first ship. Our cruise ship was quite large, standing as tall as 10-story building and covering an area twice the size of the soccer field. When you first disembarked, I remember the music playing from North Korean speakers. One of the songs' title was "My country is the best in the world. 내 나라 제일로 좋아." How might the North Koreans who had to rely on simple sailboats due to a lack of energy have felt when they saw this massive, brightly lit cruise ship while hearing this song? Although we share the same language and ethnicity, after 50 years of separation, our two societies had grown so different that contact between us felt almost surreal. I was able to see firsthand just how foreign we had become to each other. I observed the distinct characteristics, the South and those of North, each with unique aspects, along with the unique challenges that arise in inter-Korean relations. The ongoing military tension and the deep-rooted distrust between the two sides were palpable. Among the 850 tourists on the first boat, about half were displaced individuals originally from North Korea. We call 실향민. For them, visiting Mount Gangwon Kumgang was more than just sightseeing. It was an emotional journey to a land they had longed to see again. Some of them even left a will behind before entering North Korea. Having lived through the war, they could not fully trust North Korea, yet they were willing to risk their lives to visit a place close to their hometown. One might say their fears and worries were excessive, but honestly, even I had a moment of fear. Inside the bus, we picked up the South Korean radio signal, broadcasting news. The North Korean spy boat had attempted to enter the South Korea's west coast early that morning and fled after receiving a warning shot from our military. What if a military conflict had actually occurred? Everyone on the bus was filled with anxiety. North Korean soldiers guarded the entire route, and even in tourist areas along the coast, we could see anti-aircraft guns and other weapons pointed southward, still on alert. The experiences of tension was unusual, and it also shows that although this area was now open for tourism, North Korea had exposed a very sensitive military zone. In fact, within a year, an incident occurred where a tourist was detained for allegedly insulting the North Korean regime. The South Korean government responded by suspending the sending of tourists as a form of a punishment. Such incidents, coupled with concerns about infectious disease and other issues, led to repeated suspensions and resumptions of Kumgangsan tour on and off until 2008. Over a period of more than 10 years, nearly 2 million South Koreans visited Mount Kumgang and interacted with North Koreans. The political and the social differences between the two Koreas were vast and highly sensitive. Above all, North Korea revered its supreme leaders as sacred and reacted aggressively to any criticism of its regime. This photo shows an unforgettable scene for South Koreans in 2003. While visiting the South, the North Korean cheer squad suddenly became furious when they saw a welcoming banner on the street with Kim Jong-il's image. They tearfully took it down. They worried that rain might fall on his image, supreme leader. In North Korea, anything related to the supreme leader, his photo, his name is treated as untouchable. If someone spoke ill of North Korea's leader, the consequences would be unpredictable. For the reason, the South Korean government advised visitors to North Korea avoid any political remarks and just enjoy. However, as time went on, more people traveled north, things started to ease up a little. A few years later, I was at Mount Kumgang and felt tense over hearing a slightly drunken tourist say something bold. He openly claimed that Kim Jong-il's poor leadership was causing North Koreans to suffer. A North Korean was nearby. Guess what happened next? Surprisingly, the North Korean just walked away. That's all. If he reacted, he would have had to make it a big issue, big issue. But by pretending he didn't hear, he avoided any problem. Over the years, as tourism continued and North Koreans saw the economic benefit, they found ways to avoid conflict. If North Koreans have applied regulations strictly, there would have been serious issues more 10 times a month, and the tourism business would not have been able to continue. Even the strict rule to treat their leader as more precious than life had loosened a bit. With this ongoing contact, North Koreans also started to understand South Korea's political system and the relationship between the government and the people, things they just only guessed at before. In March 2001, I heard a story from a North Korean official in Pyongyang. He shared an experience from a flight between Jeju to Seoul in South Korea, soon after a South-North meeting about 6 months earlier. Because of the meeting ran late, the flight was delayed by about 1 hour. There were regular South Korean passengers on the same plane. A South Korean official apologized for the delay, which was quite usual for us. But the North Koreans, it was eye-opening. And later, they had a serious discussion about it. I asked him, so what did you conclude? He said, we had 3 main takeaways. First, South Korea's enthusiasm for reunification is much lower than we expected. Complaining about just 1 hour delay for an important meeting on inter-Korean relations for us, that's something worth waiting not just a day, even a year. Second, they realized what a pluralistic society actually works. During the talks, South Korean officials mentioned needing the support of their National Assembly and the public to accept North Koreans' demands. At first, they thought it was a negotiation tactic. I guess they might conclude that pluralism is a dangerous thing that should never be allowed. The third conclusion made me struggle not to laugh. He said, Do we even need to negotiate with such a weak South Korean government? They knew there was no alternative, so inter-Korean talks continued quite a while after that. In the contact zone between North and South Korea, one can observe each side's attitude toward individuals, particularly regarding human dignity and rights. This photo shows North Korean media coverage of triplet brothers from around 2005 KCTV. Imagine what their names might be, triplet. They are called 총일, 포길, 탄일. The first syllables of their names from the word 총폭탄, which translated to gun and bomb. The meaning here is they must be willing to sacrifice themselves like bombs to protect the supreme leader. The 7 children in this photo are actually part of a family of 10 siblings. 2 older siblings are in the military and the youngest is still an infant. If you take the first syllables of each sibling's name, they spell out 혁명의 수뇌부 결사옹위. Their name, 혁경, 명향, 의범, 수금, 내련, 불용, 결사옹. It means defending the revolutionary leadership with determination. While names like these are unusual enough to appear on television, but most North Korean males' names include strong elements like 철, iron, or 총, loyalty. And while females' names are somewhat softer, they often reflect collective values rather than personal aspiration. In Mount Kumgang, tourists wore name tag with their age and name instead of passports. You see the name tags? North Koreans would often look closely at these, commenting, "Your name is so beautiful," or "You look so young." I received quite a few compliments on my name as well. It wasn't just about names. North Koreans seemed to sense the differences between their society and the outside the world in how society treated people, how parents treated children, teachers treated students, and husbands treated wives. They noticed that South Korean children appeared less obedient, often treating their parents more like friends. South Korean women in particular seemed very free-spirited and outspoken, sometimes even causing North Koreans to worry about the values of their own society. Over a decade, the continuous flow of visitors brought more changes. The South Korean government, much like West Germany in the past, supported student trips, and tourism gradually became more relaxed, affordable, and accessible, leading to a rise in the number of visitors. Naturally, the tourist area expanded, and more North Koreans began working with South Korean tourists. The photo above shows the village of Onjeongni, the center of Mount Kumgang tourism and their village. Here, Hyundai renovated hotels and various facilities were added, including food court, a performance theater, circus, 교회, large hot springs, and even a branch of 옥류관. You know, Pyongyang's the most famous cold noodle restaurant, 평양냉면. Later, a golf course was also built. In this area, tourists were allowed to move about more freely. After hiking and enjoying the hot spring, they could relax with drinks and snacks and at street stall run by North Koreans, chatting and even joking with him. With so many South Korean visitors over the years, the North Korean had become quite comfortable interacting with their guests. In the meantime, The North and South cleared the landmine from the DMZ and built roads connecting the two sides. On the eastern side, buses could travel all the way Mount Kumgang, while on the western side, new roads and railways were completed and the large Kaesong Industrial Complex began operations. Initially, access to Mount Kumgang was only possible through group bus tours, but later, people could drive their personal cars from South Korea all the way to Kumgang Mountain. While exchanges supported by policies and rules are important, I focused on how people change. Those who spend time together in the contact zone follow the strict rules on the surface, but they adapted in practical ways. They learned smart ways to get along and at times even took small risks to enjoy their interactions. The shared benefit of being together made it possible for people to adjust and change. North Korean soldiers helped guide South Korean tourists safely, and North Korean restaurants adjust their traditional recipes to better suit the taste of South Korean guests. Unjeongni, the main base of Mount Kumgang, was a fascinating place. From the upper floors of the hotel, I could see North Korean going to work through the small village intersections, soldiers sometimes passing by, and South Korean tourists coming and going all the time. Many villagers worked with South Korean tourists as hotel staff, restaurant servers, cleaners, and site managers. Even the vegetables South Korean ate were grown by North Koreans. There were also North Korean rescue workers. Once, when my colleague exhausted herself on the mountain, a North Korean rescuer tied a rope around her and carried her down the mountain to a hospital. He put the rope around her neck and under her hip, holding the ends in his arm as he hurried down the stop, saying this was the way we carry pigs in the North Korea. If any should stop tourism, these people would lose good jobs and valuable chances. The hope for a shared future that these exchanges inspire makes trust and patience between the two sides possible. This area is not a part of tourist zone. It's a mountain in North Korean village called Kumcheonri, located further south, off limits to regular tourists. This area was the site of a forestry cooperation project between a South Korean NGO and North Korea. Mr. Lee Gun-hun, a successful chestnut farmer from Buyeo in Chungcheongnam-do province, pledged to create a chestnut forest on 200 hectares of Kumcheonri barren hills. Due to economic hardships, North Korean mountains have become bare, residents having been gathering firewood from the forest. Forest fire have also damaged the region. Mr. Lee first built a work road, which allows him to efficiently transport workers, sapling young trees and materials. He then planned for trucks to handle the take like spraying and maintaining the trees and eventually harvesting. In a short time, he carried a total of 120 kilometers of work road. If the North Koreans have tried to make these paths with their own resources, it would have taken severe several months. I'm sorry, it have taken several months or even a year just to complete the roads. After a few months, the hundreds of thousands of chestnut trees only grew as much as you see in the on the left. Mr. Lee was confident, though. He believed that once they harvested the chestnuts, they could generate enough income to support 3,000 people. But the North Koreans weren't so sure. They doubted if these young trees would really thrive, since successful reforestation was rare for them. To reassure them, Mr. Lee called his son and asked him to bring 10 6-year-old chestnut trees from Buya, shown in the photo on the right. Even though the odds of successful transplanting were low, sturdy chestnut trees grew at the fort. This success changes everything. The North Korean gained confidence and started working with real enthusiasm. Mr. Lee remembered walking through the chestnut fields with the villagers who treated him not as a South Korean, but as the elder of their own community. He could even move around without North Korean guard, and even the soldiers didn't raise no concern. Unusually, a South Korean manager isn't allowed to directly instruct North Korean workers without going through their representative. But even when Mr. Lee scolded idle North Korean workers, no one objected. This is a plan for the chestnut field. North Korean drew this map. It's North Koreans. You see the name of 25 people. The work team from a cooperative farm was assigned, divided into 5 sub-teams and 5 farmers in each team, total 25 farmers. The South Korean NGO provided North Korean farmers with sweet potato seeding that could soon be harvested for food. This was a form of supplementary income, and with hard work, the farmers were able to achieve a good harvest. However, the NGO team noticed that the farmers took turns standing guard over the sweet potato field after work. When asked why, they simply responded with smile instead of words. But the reason was clear. They were protecting their sweet potato, their harvest, from nearby soldiers and people from other villages. In this sweet potato matter, the North Korean soldiers were their adversaries, while the South Korean NGO was on their side. The boundary of who is on our side became blurred and even redefined. This complex web of interest, identities, and shifting boundaries is a common phenomenon observed in contact zone, and North Korea was no exception. However, the hopes of Lee Gun-hun and the people of Kumcheon-ri did not last long. In the summer of 2008, a shocking incident occurred when a Mount Kumgang tourist was fatally shot by a North Korean soldier. She had accidentally wandered out of the tourist zone into North Korean territory. North Korean claimed it was a misunderstanding, thinking she was a defector, but the Mount Kumgang tourism project was completely shut down afterward, halting all businesses operating business, including the chestnut forest. A month later, Mr. Lee received the permission to visit and was preparing for the trip. However, he never made it to Kumchon-ni. He passed away from a heart attack early that morning. His wife attributed it to extreme stress. What became of the chestnut forest after that, I don't know. The people who want this reunion the most are the separated families. So what's the story between these two, guess, couples? Or it's a mother from the south and her son from the north. She became a widow right after giving birth to him at just 20 years old. She sacrificed everything and did her best for her son. She was overjoyed when he got into Seoul National University, the best school in South Korea. But then the war broke out and her son was drafted into the North Korean army. She had no idea if he was even alive. They finally got to see each other after 50 years, but their happiness was too short. They had just 3 days together before they had to say goodbye all over again. The son's name was Jo Ju-kyung. He was a professor at Kim Il-sung University. I met him in Pyongyang about 6 months after he and his mother had their reunion. Since he had no way of reaching her, I suggested that he wrote her a letter. I tore a page from my notebook for him to write on. Later, I was able to give that letter to his mother. In the moment, I was really glad to be a journalist. In his letter, he wrote that he wished he could bring his mother to live with him. She cried with happiness as she read it. With more exchanges between North and South, people started holding on a bigger hope, but making those hopes come true was another story. 3 years later, the son passed away, and 3 months after that, his mother followed him. All the roads connecting North and South Korea have been destroyed. And now that all means of contact and connection are gone, talking about past meeting and exchange can feel pointless, especially here in Germany. The effort and achievement from those years of contact have vanished like a mirage. And maybe they were destined to fail from the start. But during those time of exchange, the changes between people were meaningful, just like West Germany's Ostpolitik aimed to achieve change through contact. Even if we couldn't change North Korean leadership, people adapted and involved, becoming more flexible and efficient in those shared space. North Korea's current effort to aggressively cut off all contact, to erase any illusion about South Korea, and to instill hostility might suggest that even belatedly they realized the impact and potential risks of human connections. Perhaps they came to see that continued contact could threaten the stability of their regime. In today's lecture, I've focused on stories of people rather than immediate issues like the North Korean regime, nuclear weapons, missiles, or human rights. When people meet, things can unfold in dynamic and unpredictable ways, but such changes often go unrecorded and unappreciated. Even though the human heart is one of the most unpredictable forces for change. With that, I will wrap up my lecture and look forward to your thought, questions, and a good discussion. Thank you.